Welcome everyone. We have another Ask the Expert. And I've been telling for a long time then, I don't know if I do in this segment for myself or for the people asking questions. But one of the things that I enjoy so much is to have the pleasure and the honor to be interviewing and talking with friends and mentors. And in this case, I have all of them and my ex-teacher, Mark Lowther, is an expert in hostage negotiation. He was my teacher in level 1, 2, and 3, if I'm not mistaken. And for the ones who doesn't know Mark, who I don't know what rock you had been living under, he was the first hostage negotiator who did a negotiation on the media. The person who took a hostage decided to post on Facebook. Well, Mark, welcome to the segment. It's a pleasure to have you.
Thank you, Susan. I appreciate that.
Well, Mark, why you are an expert beside to be a hostage negotiator expert for how many years?
I've got almost 30 years total in law enforcement, and I've spent almost half of that either as a crisis negotiator or teaching it or both. So I've been doing this, either teaching it or actually practicing it for right around.
Okay, Mark, you have been doing hostage negotiation, and I have a lot of friends who are hostage negotiators, and I met a lot of new friends in your class when I was learning by you. And they says it's easy to manage a hostage negotiation than a corporate negotiation. But you have moved for training, like every week you're on the road training SWAT teams, policemen, and independents, but now you move in corporate. And one of the things that corporate can incorporate from what a hostage negotiator experience is active listening. And people say it, people talk about it, but what is active listening in a negotiation?
So active listening, what active listening is a set of skills that were actually developed back in the 50s. Active listening skills actually predate the crisis negotiation team concept. Crisis negotiation team was created with the New York City Police Department in 1973. And as they were developing the criteria and the techniques to use in dealing with barricaded individuals or hostage takers, rather than recreating the wheel, they started looking at some things, some techniques to try to help communication with people in crisis. They found some research that had been done by some social workers and some counselors called active listening. And so they adapted these techniques into crisis negotiation. Crisis negotiation has been around coming up on close to 50 years now. And some things have changed, some things have evolved over almost 5 decades. But one of the main things that stayed very, very consistent since day one is adopting and using these active listening skills for communicating with people. Really
So what do you think corporate America is calling experts like yourself to help them to better understand and better to listen? We should expect that corporate America is better trained in active listen and negotiation, since they have lawyers, they have other attributes who should help them to do a better job. What do you think is in America and the corporate world is incorporating hostage negotiators?
Well, the thing about hostage negotiation in the law enforcement realm, in society, it's always been kind of a problem, but probably, in my opinion, in the last 15 years, it's actually even gotten worse. With the advances in technology, internet, Wi-Fi, 4G calling, texting, email, social media, the actual just what we're doing right now, communication skills, talking to each other, a lot of people have kind of started losing those communication skills. Like I tell the police officers that I train, in fact, I was training a group today, and one of the things I told them is the opposite of talking should be listening, but for a lot of us, it's not that, it's way I've got to prove my point correct and prove you wrong. And so instead of really listening to what you say, I'm just basically politely waiting for you to stop talking so that I can say what I'm already planning on saying all along. And that's really not listening. You're kind of going through the motions. You're politely waiting for the other person to stop talking. But in many cases, we're truly not listening to this person. What's the point they're trying to make? What are their concerns? What are their issues? What are the things that they're positive about? What are the things that they're negative about? Those types of things. A lot of times we really miss that in communication. We basically talk at each other instead of really listening to people.
Do you think it's a generational thing, or it's happening, doesn't matter where you're coming from or the age you are?
I think generational things have a lot to do with it. My daughter's 23 years old. She was born in 1995. She does not know life without a computer and the internet, and she's had a cell phone since time she was 10 or 11 years old. So her comfort zone, her environment, her experiences growing up is not as much face-to-face communication. I mean, of course, she had friends and went to school and things like that, but a lot of her uh, learning and a lot of her life experiences have taken place of a text message, a social media post, an email, and those types of things. And where people really lack in communicating these days is with body language, because we just don't talk face to face that much anymore. So we start losing those body language interpretation skills, which of course is your expertise, but also just listening. Even on the phone, phone's a good way to communicate, but when we're on the phone, again, a lot of times we just kind of shut down. I'm on the phone with you and I hear the noise in the headset, so I politely wait until that noise stops, and I might be thinking about 50 different things: what I need to do when I get home, what I'm going to make for dinner, what I need to prepare for the next day. I may be thinking about just about anything in the world other than what you're saying right now, because we lost, or I shouldn't say we've lost, but we're losing a lot of our ability to communicate and listen. And so we just go through the motions. We really don't pay attention not only to what you're saying it, but how you're saying it, voice inflection and those types of things. Uh, Voice inflection is so huge in communication. I can make a statement to you. I can walk up to you and I can say, "Hey, Susan, what are you doing here?" And it sounds pretty cheerful, greeting, happy, friendly. Or I could walk up to you and I could say, "Hey, Susan, what are you doing here?" And that way it sounds more derogatory, more condescending, more adversarial. It's the exact same words, but with voice inflection, one can sound cheerful and sound like a group, a lot more adversarial. And we've really, I think it's kind of like playing an instrument or being an athlete or having any other skill or trait. Using it long enough, it kind of becomes atrophied, and we just really don't, we kind of lose our proficiency in that. And with technology, don't get me wrong, technology is great. I use email, I use texting, I use social media, but I still make a point of when I travel, when I'm at the check-in counter at the hotel, when I'm at the airport kiosk, when I'm interacting with people, I make a point of listening to them, talking to them, listening to what they have to say, and actually really communicating with people rather than just going through the motions of nodding and grunting at people as we interact with each other. And I think that's where people in general, but especially corporate America, of course, corporate America, there's business meetings, teleconferences. We're using this technology as well. But still, I think those same issues come up with the technology. Are we focusing more on an email rather than actually communicating with people and truly listening to what they have to say, understanding their concerns, understanding issues, and understanding what's important to them? And I think that's where my skills as a crisis negotiator can really spill over to the corporate world as well. You're hearing this person talk to you, but are you truly listening to what they have to say? For their comments, their concerns, uh, their goals? Are you registering them when you listen to them? Or are they just basically white noise in the background that you're waiting for them to stop talking so that you can now make your statement?
As I mentioned in the beginning, talking with, as I told you, with friends and hostile negotiators, they says they prefer to have the worst hostile negotiation or a person ready to jump from a bridge than need to go to negotiating corporate America. What are the biggest differences that you find between a crisis negotiation and a corporate negotiation?
Well, there's a lot of differences. I mean, a lot can be on the line, but in a crisis negotiation, lives are generally on the line. Uh, someone's threatening to kill themselves, suspects threatening uh, walk away deal. If you don't like the terms, if you don't like the circumstances, if you don't like what's going on, in my just can't say, you know what, you're being unreasonable, and we can't work together, and I just can't turn around and walk away from that. Lives are in a balance, so I have to stay there with it. But corporate America definitely has its challenges, deadlines. A lot of times, businesses, manufacturers have multiple people that they're dealing with. I recently did a training class for a large corporation in Denver. And as I was preparing to do the training, one of the things I was asking them about is some of their issues, some of their concerns with, communicating with people and what those may be. And one of their biggest communication issues uh, was they had salespeople, sales reps that were basically getting bullied into making concessions that the company really couldn't make. They didn't understand how to say no. They didn't understand how to push back and come back with counter offers or counter viewpoints. They basically would just get pushed around, and they would basically make agreements to do modifications to the job that the company was unwilling or unable to do. And so then at a later point, someone has to come along behind them and basically renegotiate the deal all over again. So I think a lot of it's just understanding, being very, very open. There's some things I can do, there's some things that I can't do. And sometimes, even as a hostage negotiator, you just need to be able to tell this person, there's a lot of things that I can do to help you. There's a lot of things I can do for you. But there's also some things you're asking for that just aren't possible, that just aren't going to happen. Sometimes it becomes difficult for us to say no. And sometimes that's what we have to do.